This video will take a closer look at this PCB holder slash magnifier and LED lamp with this bundle here, and I paid just shy of $50 for this, and that was shipped within Europe, so it did arrive within like 7 days. So if you live in Europe, that's definitely a pretty good deal and fast delivery. I can of course share the affiliate link down in the description below if you're interested. But this one have, like I said, a magnifier and also an LED lamp, as well as 4 clamps, 2 taller ones and 2 shorter ones, and then it has 4 of those magnetic PCB holders as well. So let's just have a look at what we actually get in the box. The box was a little damaged during shipping, so let's just see how the content actually is. Wasn't really packaged all that well, only really plastic bag around this box here, but considering it's just mainly metal parts, I don't think anything could really happen to it. So this one is also one of the bigger models. You can also get smaller ones, but I really wanted the biggest one I could get. So this is 25 long centimeters and 20 deep centimeters as well. A lot of them are smaller than this, but I do want to hold like bigger PCBs like the one in this little computer, for instance. So I hope that it will fit, because that's one of the reasons why I actually wanted to get something that I could actually hold that PCB a little bit better for doing some soldering. But anyways, I think this is a pretty generic box here. So there is some information here on the back. So you do have the USB cable for actually powering the LED inside the magnifier. The magnifier is 3 times magnification. Not really sure if this is glass or plastic optics, but we'll take a look at that in the video here. I presume it is plastic, but we can actually also have warm and cold light. So that's kind of nice that you can adjust the temperature. And we do also have alligator clips, and they do also have some shrink wrap around the drawer. So should be a little more protective to the surface or the cables you want to hold. And like I said, this one has 2 shorter ones and 2 longer ones. I kind of like that as well, because that makes it easier to use it for various different tasks. But you can also just change these out if you want. And we do have 4 of those magnets that you can actually, of course, hold down some PCB, do some solder work. And also like this one, because the rubber feet is actually screwed into the arms, so it's not really stuck on. And also the arms are not magnetic as well. I like that. But of course, if you like the magnetic options, you should go for those instead. So for this base here, or for this system, only the 4 PCB holders are magnetic that you can see down here. But anyways, let's just get into the box, have a closer look at what we actually get. And surprise, surprise, we get all the content. Nice big rubber feet with included screws and washers. Do have those 4 arms. They are actually magnetic. Okay, I thought they were screw-in types. Only the small ones apparently are screw-in types, or maybe all of them are. Maybe there's screws below this piece of tape. Let's peel it off. No, they're all magnetic. Okay, I did not know that. I think maybe they have included the wrong ones, but you can see the 4 of them are not magnetic. And then the last one does have a magnet, but I suppose that underneath the magnet we do have a screw hole. Just a little bit extra work we have to do here. And the one with the magnet also does not come in a plastic bag, so I guess they just kind of included that one last minute. Then we have the magnifier. Let's just have a look at that. Of course, we have the little LED lamp here underneath. This is 3 times magnification. That's quite a lot, a little bit more than I would probably ever need. So the lamp was not really something I was that interested in, but considering it was included and you can power it off USB, maybe I can use it for something else, or maybe I'll find use for it in this build here, or this system. I'm not really sure. And then we have, of course, the magnetic PCB holders. Let's just remove those right out of the bed here. So we do, of course, have the magnet underneath. Feels like they are made of aluminium. And then you can, of course, screw these to your liking. So pretty basic. You can adjust them exactly for your PCB. And you can also kind of screw these holes through the PCB if that's easier, or if the screw holes on the PCB is big enough. You can kind of just rest them on here as well. So yeah, I actually thought they were maybe a little better quality. They feel very light, but should get the job done. And then of course we have the instructions. So it just tells you how to actually assemble this in both Chinese and in English. Actually not really that much assembling, just assembly steps. 1, screw in the rubber feet. 2, use the alligator clips. That's a little basic, but yeah, you pretty much just need to screw all of them in. And then we have the base plate itself, very heavy. Of course it is made of steel, so it is magnetic. Let's just get straight into that one and have a closer look. So yeah, just a piece of metal. Don't think really there's any up or down. Pretty much just the same all the way around. So let's just try and actually remove the rubber feet and just start assembly. And the tool required is just a standard Phillips head. Guess you have to put on the washers first and then of course screw in the legs. And let's just start with the two longer arms here. And in fact, let's just have a look at those as well. You can see there the alligator clamps do have heat strap around the drawers and also a plastic there towards the back, so you can open them, I guess, more easily. This one seems to be a little bit damaged towards the plastic. Just metal arms, you can kind of bend in any shape you would like, and you can screw them off here with a little screw, so you can kind of use your own clamp. If you want something bigger or something different, you can do so. Kind of like that modularity. Also, if they get damaged in the future, you can just screw them out and replace them with new ones. The two smaller ones here is exactly the same. Of course, only difference with one of them is that it has a magnet, not a screw hole. But other than that, same exact idea. You can kind of just put them in place wherever you would like and use them for soldering cables and so on. It's very usable in my opinion. So let's just start with actually mounting the long ones. So I guess we just need to put a washer on the screw, pull it through the rubber feet, and let's just try and screw one of these long ones in place. Pretty easy to do. Kind of get started here, just screwing on the rubber feet, and of course just tighten it with the screwdriver, like so. One down. Let's just see if we can get all of them on. So that was the long one. Let's go to the short one, and of course remember the washer, rubber feet, and we can actually screw in this arm here. Then of course we have the last one. Let's see if we can remove that magnet, and if there's a screw head underneath. Kind of hard to do actually without breaking the magnet. So I think I'll just try to drill through it. That's probably the best thing to start with. I'll do this off camera, so I won't make too much of a mess in here. So let me just get back in a few minutes once I've experienced a little bit with actually drilling through this one here. So after some hammering and drilling, I did get the magnet out, and you can see there is a thread underneath. So pretty much the same exact underneath. So let's just screw the last one in place. And that's all the arms screwed in place. Let's just try and attach the magnet. Not the most stable. I guess they're fine enough. I was hoping something that would be much more stable than this. But maybe when of course you have these four together, it will be better. Last thing of course you can screw in place is the lamp. So let's just try and attach that. You only have a screw, no washers or anything like that. So I guess you just screw it directly in here. Let's screw it in here. I've bottomed out the thread, and you can see it's still not on. It's very loose. So definitely do need maybe 3-4 millimeters of washers between the lamp and the base. So just be aware, you need to supply your own washers for that lamp / magnifier. But man, it's a little bit wonky on there. So let's just screw it off again. I didn't really plan to use it anyway, so I don't really care too much. Oh, it's a little bit annoying that they have not included the proper washers, or maybe just find a shorter screw, be preferable. So first of all, let's just try and actually attach some kind of PCB. So let's try and attach this defective power supply and see if we can actually get these 4 magnets into place in such a manner that it actually is like holding it in place. Yeah, like I said, those magnets just doesn't feel all that strong. Kind of get it in place, but man, it just feels like they want to fall over any second. So yeah, if you want to do any kind of solder work, I'm not really sure that's the best solution. See here on the listing on AliExpress, it does look like they're just resting the motherboard on these grooves here on the holder. But yeah, I don't think really there is enough force, downward force, to actually hold it that way. So the best way would probably just be to screw it in between these two here. Unless of course you have a PCB like this, where there's actually screw holes, so you can kind of rest it on top of these brackets. I think that will actually work fine. Even better if they could just go through, but yeah, they cannot. But I think this will actually be better if you want to do some kind of solder work. Yeah, this is actually a pretty stable base. I could definitely work with this. If you could just rest it on top of the screws, better. What about maybe pinching it in between these two here? Then you should just, of course, make sure you're not shortening out anything. That I think could also actually be quite okay. Get them the same height here and just kind of screw it in place like so. Pretty stable like that. I think actually it would be kind of useful. Yeah, you can see now it's very stable. So just resting it on the inside of this ring here is definitely not the way to go. You should attach it a little bit better. Screw it on here, or use the screw holes on the PCB. That way I feel like it won't really go anywhere. if you are soldering something and maybe even desoldering something. So you have the soldering iron there and you put a little bit force onto the motherboard, desolder it. Yeah, I think actually that is definitely doable. What about the alligator clips? Can they actually hold something? Are they a better option? Let's just try and hold this PCB in place with the alligator clips here. And yeah, probably should align them a little bit better in terms of how I screw them onto the base. But the spring is not really all that strong, but it should be enough. That is actually quite stable. But then you also have it very high up on the table. Can't really get them that much lower. But man, yeah, that's quite usable actually. Maybe even better than the magnets. But of course, then you need to have room on your PCB to actually hold them in place with these alligator clips, and kind of limited to the mobility of these clips. Maybe you can get them all the way down here actually, and the small ones you can't really. But man, that's actually surprisingly stable. You just want to do solder and desolder stuff, definitely can handle a lot more weight than you can put on this surface with just a soldering iron or desoldering tool. Definitely feel like it is good enough, but the magnets feels like an afterthought. There seem to be better ones on AliExpress than these, rather flimsy and not really that magnetic. So it's now next day and I've been using this magnetic board here / crocodile grip, and you can see there I've done some modification to mine. I've actually drilled 3 holes here, what I suppose would be the top. So I actually can move the arms or the longer arms on the back side here. So, and the shorter arms, I just use the 2 holes already in the board. I feel like this is a much better system because if you're soldering and just use the magnetic holders, I just found that the arm that was right here would actually get a little bit in the way. You can of course move it out of the way a little bit, but when you're actually in and out with the soldering iron, this is kind of the path that I go through. So I kind of have to go around it. Not really ideal, so definitely moving it up here, I feel like it's much better. And still I have 1 hole back or left, so I can still attach the loop / lamp on the top here, and I feel that's much better than mounting it on the side and having to squeeze it onto the side like so. You can just pull it back and pull it forward, much better, but I don't really tend to use it, so won't really get installed right now. But you can of course just also install other stuff like magic arms or any kind of holder there, maybe a camera holder so you can kind of hold the camera and record up close, or a phone holder for that instance. But what I ended up doing was actually go out and buy some new screws. So these are actually 1.6mm screws in now, and these fit perfectly, and just 1 lock nut here on top, so just holding the feet in place. If I use the screws and the washers included, I couldn't really screw it in tight enough for these arms here to actually stay in place, because else it will just kind of sink into the rubber. Not of course ideal, so I had to tighten it very tight, and like I said, I'll just destroy the rubber. So just having the feet screwed in is definitely a better option, and then just move the arms other places on the board is much better. Now they're on there very tight, and all of these screws here are 1.6mm. This seems to be the perfect sweet spot for this build here, so they don't stick out too long. It's just around the same thickness as a lock nut on the other end with a washer underneath. And I also replaced the washers in the rubber feet with some bigger ones, and also the screw head is a little bit bigger on these specific screws here. So yeah, I definitely think this is a mod worth doing if you want, considering this board here, because yeah, then the arms here will be so much better attached to the board. Won't really get in the way when you actually use the magnets to solder or desolder, and still you can use the arms in conjunction with each other and still hold in PCBs, or you could also just hold in cables with the smaller ones, or you can just pull the longer ones out if you want to use those instead and get maybe a little bit closer. Definitely, in my opinion, much better layout, and it's a very easy thing to do. Just, of course, drill 3 holes up here. I considered also doing the same down here, but I feel like I just want to keep this area clean, so I can just kind of squeeze a PCB in here and do my thing without anything will get in the way here. And yeah, it's definitely still not a big fan of these magnets. Not really all that great, but I kind of learned to work around them. I would recommend just screw any PCB that doesn't have the right sized hole inside or in between here, and screw them on before you actually attach the magnet to the magnetic surface. This way it will actually work just fine. But of course, make sure you're not squeezing into any components underneath, and it does also leave some marks on the PCB itself. So not really ideal, but definitely better than just having the PCB resting on the actual magnets. But I will probably end up replacing this magnet at some point, because yeah, not all that great. And let's just get on with the video. Let's just try out the last thing here, actually the flashlight, or rather the lamp. See how well that works. I could find this useful for other stuff, but I already have a magnetic lamp here in my working area. So I have this one that is installed on my desk, so I can use it with other surfaces as well. So don't really need this one for this specific surface, but could be kind of nice for other stuff. And I'm kind of curious to try out this little remote here. Can adjust the brightness, and we can also adjust the temperature. And let's just try and plug it into USB. Don't believe it needs anything special, maybe just 1 amp. And I don't know if you can see, but there's actually blue light in the little remote now. Let's try and turn it on. And it turns on, of course. Change the color. Seems to have 3 different colors. So warm white, very cold white, and just more natural white. And then, of course, we can increase and we can also decrease the brightness. That's actually not a bad little lamp. Of course, my camera is calibrated to the studio lamp I have, so it's actually a little bit brighter in real life, but just working on this little board here, I think this light is more than enough. Actually quite comfortable light, very soft light, and the fact that you can change the color temperature could be quite useful. If you're working late at night, maybe you just need a little bit warmer tint, even though the warmer tint also tends to make it a little less clear to actually see things, a little more muddy. And then there's the very blue one, and then there's just the natural. Definitely prefer the natural lighting. And of course we can turn down the brightness, but just holding the down button. This is the minimum brightness level, and then we can of course ramp up the brightness. So yeah, not a bad little lamp. I definitely think I will actually find some use for this. And a 3x magnifying glass could maybe be useful. A little too much for my need, but it's included, so I can't complain. So yeah, if I would recommend this setup, I'm not really sure actually, now that I have it on hand. If this specific thing is something you need, it's definitely good enough, but I feel like the magnets is not really up to par unless you rest the motherboard on top or the PCB on top, or you actually screw it in place here between these two. Then it could actually be quite usable. Just to squeeze it in between them using this groove here, definitely not usable in my opinion. I like the fact that all of these are screwed in, so no magnets, so I can just lift it up and they will not fall loose or come loose. And there's 2 extra screw holes here, so you can just attach whatever you would like. Kind of an oversight that the screw is too long included, and there's no washer included as well. And one of the arms here for the crocodile grip actually had a magnet underneath, so I kind of have to remove that first. And it was kind of a big task actually to remove that. Had to drill it and try to hammer it and break it that way. I couldn't really get it out without either breaking the magnet or breaking the arm. And of course I didn't really want the magnet, so that one had to go. I just noticed that there's actually a little screw underneath the alligator clips, so I guess you could also ground this if you would like to. I think it's okay, but just know what you're getting yourself into. Not the best magnetic holder, pretty good alligator grip, and quite a nice little flashlight or lamp that you actually have to include your own screw and maybe also kind of break a magnet on one of these arms if you want them all attached. But like I said, affiliate link down in the description below if you're interested. But that's pretty much all I have for this video. Until next time, take care.